Good morning, children. So, today let us start another new chapter of our civics, which is called judiciary. And under this judiciary, we'll study specially about Supreme Court. So, let us go into the chapter. So, by looking at this slide, you may just get revision of your the first chapter, where in the beginning we have studied about the federal features and how the constitution has been how the constitution has divided the powers in various organs or various institutions. So, according to Indian constitution, there are three major parts of a government. One is legislature, which is useful in the lawmaking process. Another is executive, which functions primarily for implementing the laws made by the legislature. And the third and most important organ along with the other two organs is the judiciary. So judiciary serves as a very important organ of government in various ways. So in a federal governance system, the powers are distributed, and when the powers are distributed between central and state governments, there is every chance of disputes arising between this central and state governments. Also, there might be situations where these two institutions may rise against or may develop more than the authority of the constitution. In such situation, the judiciary act as a very much independent, and it tries to balance the powers, and it also tries to protect the supremacy of the constitution. So in the federal characters or in the federal governance system, we have discussed these points, like the legislature, judiciary has been kept as an independent organ, because in certain situations the legislative and executive may try to dominate the constitution sometimes. Otherwise, in certain situations, as part of federal governance, there are powers divided between central and state governments. In such situation, if any problem arises between the sharing of powers, I know there must be an independent organ to monitor all these disputes and other things. So the judiciary will act as a very efficient tool in handling such disputes between central and state governments as a part of its federal governance. So let us see under judiciary what we are going to read in today's class is the Supreme Court of India. So this is just a pictorial representation of what the judiciary generally does in a country. So we have even studied the same thing, that judiciary has been kept independent from the other two organs of the government, so that it can it exercises its powers to monitor the executive and legislature in cases where they try to overpower the constitution. And also at the same time, it is the judicial department which interprets and enforces the laws of the constitution. So thus judiciary emerges as a very important organ of our. When you try to understand the judiciary in India, what kind of judicial system has been adopted in India? So in general, the type of judicial system that is adopted in India, or the type that Indian constitution specifies, is single integrated system of courts. So in judiciary, courts serve as institutions of delivering the justice, and all the courts in India are integrated. So they are one at the same, but only in the functioning way they have separate institutions. So like physically they might be separate, but the judicial system followed in all the court is integrated system, and both at the central and states, they both have the highest court has Supreme Court. So all the courts are integrated with one highest court at national level or throughout the country. We have one single court which is called Supreme Court. So, what do we mean by single integrated system of courts? So, let us study what is this single integrated system of courts. In a single integrated system of court, the Supreme Court is the head of the entire system and it supervises and exercises control over all the other courts in the country. So, now we are learning about the meaning of single integrated system of courts. What do you mean by single integrated system of courts? In any country which adopted such integrated system of courts, there they have a Supreme Court at the top level of judiciary. So at the highest level of judiciary, Supreme Court will function and it acts as a apex court, that means a topmost court. And what does this Supreme Court do? It supervises and exercises control over all the functioning of other courts. The Supreme Court in the country will supervise, that means it will try to understand how the other courts are functioning in the country, and not only supervising, it also exercises control over their functioning. So it can even give orders on the functioning of all the other courts in the country. So as a part of learning of integrated judiciary system, the first point says that Supreme Court will act as a apex court or the highest court, and it supervises the other courts. Also it controls the functioning of other courts. And the other point which supports the view of integrated system is there are no separate set of laws and a single civil and criminal system operates throughout the country. See, in lawmaking, we generally have two different kinds of laws like criminal law and civil law. So criminal laws generally deals about crimes. Whenever a crime has been happened or whenever a crime occurs, the law applicable on such crimes is criminal law. And whenever some family matters or some other issues, some land, property issues and all, they come under civil law. So in India, we have criminal laws and civil laws. Throughout the country, these criminal and civil laws are uniform. They are not different in each and every state. You may go to Andhra Pradesh, you may go to Bihar, you may go to Delhi, anywhere in the country. The civil and criminal laws are one at the same. They are same in all parts of India. There won't be any difference in every state with reference to the laws. Hence we can say that as laws are same, somewhere they are integrating the system of courts. So other point is all cases coming from the lower courts can be taken to High Court and ultimately Supreme Court by way of appeal. See, in India, you cannot directly, all the cases cannot be directly taken away to Supreme Court or next level courts. From a lower court in a state, it can reach maximum to High Court. And from High Court, then such case can be transferred to Supreme Court. And how it can be transferred? It can be transferred through a appeal. That means by a request. So by appealing, we can shift any case from one level of court to another level of court and finally to the Supreme Court. So which shows that all these courts are integrated. So there is no separation here. So every case must pass from one level to another level. It doesn't everybody take all cases to Supreme Court. It has to pass all the levels and then finally it reaches to Supreme Court if necessary. And below the Supreme Court, all the high courts of different states, and under these high courts there is hierarchy of subordinate courts. So at the top level Supreme Court will function. Under the Supreme Court, all the high courts of a states will function, and under each state high court their subordinate courts will function. Subordinate courts include maybe district courts or session courts. Okay, that we'll discuss in the later chapters. So all these points suggest us that Indian judicial system is integrated. Somewhere they are connected in between, and still they function separately, but they are connected and they are monitored by the Supreme Court at the highest level. So we have just finished that India has adapted single integrated system of judiciary. So is there any other judiciary followed in other countries? Yes. In America, the system of judiciary adapted is dual system of judiciary, because I have discussed this in legislature chapter, where in America has presidential form of government, and it is an example of true federalism, where the states enjoys independent, and the states of America, they have independent in nature. At the same time, they by an agreement are part of the American nation. So in such nation, where all the states have joined together by an agreement and formed United States of America, the system of judiciary is dual system, where there will be a federal court system and state court system. So like each state, if you take California, the California will have a highest court at its level, which is generally referred as highest, like you can call it Supreme Court of California. At the same time, for the entire nation or for the entire federation of all these states, there is a federal court at the national level. So each state will have its own court system, as well as the entire federation will have its federal court. There the courts may function within their state limits, and they can exercise their powers. Federal court also exercise its powers throughout the nation. If you compare with India, there is no such separation of federal court and state courts. Here in India, all the states have not joined by an agreement. They are the indestructible units of our country. So they all together formed, not by agreement, by natural way, the states in India have formed the nation. So here there is no such separation of states and central. Even though every state has its own high court, all these courts function under one such Supreme Court. Whereas in America it is not like that. Federal court will function for the nation on federal issues based on the separation of powers they have, and state's highest court will take decision on the every state. Here it's not like that. The Supreme Court stands at the highest level and it directs all the other courts. So here they are all integrated and they function, whereas there they separated in two different forms of courts and they function. So this is the difference between American dual court system and Indian single integrated judiciary system. So then let us go and study, why do we need single integrated system in India. So after understanding the difference of American kind of judicial system and Indian judiciary system, let us see why India has adopted such integrated judiciary system. So unlike the dual court system in America, India has adopted single integrated judicial system. So what are the reasons behind it? So the first and foremost reason is, in a representative democracy, administration of justice assumes special significance in view of rights of individuals. So see here, what do you mean by representative democracy? Democracy is a thing where the decision of majority people will prevail, and representative democracy means by the process of election, the majority's decision will come into action. And in a country like India, we elect our representatives and they in turn form the government, which is nothing but the decision of majority is prevailing. Hence we call it as representative democracy. Here, in such representative democratic countries, administration of justice assumes special significance in view of rights of individuals, which need protection against executive or legislative interference. So, in our country, the constitution has created three institutions for the government functioning, like legislature, executive, and judiciary is also part. So, when legislative and executive wings of the government, when they interfere with the rights of the individuals, then there is a chance of, the individuals or the citizens losing their rights. Through various laws and other means, the legislature or executive may try to interfere and may try to suppress the rights of the citizens. See, once they come into power, then they cannot be questioned for the 5-year term which they have. During such period, who knows, this legislative and executive wings may turn so powerful and they may try to interfere with the rights of people, and they may even try to suppress these rights. In such situation, the judiciary will come into protection of the individuals from the other two organs of the government. So the judiciary serves as a independent organ which protects from the legislative and executive wings. In turn, if they become so powerful and if they try to interfere with the rights of the individuals, so by making laws and other things, they may try to make any interference with the individual rights, and they may suppress these rights because of their own agendas and other things. In such situations, judiciary will come into help by stopping this legislature and executive to function more than required. When they function more than they are required, judiciary will come into scene and they try to stop such action of those two wings. And an independent and supreme judiciary is also an essential requirement of federal governments. So where in a federal governance, the constitution divides the powers between executive, legislature and judiciary. So this I have discussed in the beginning of the chapter itself. So India has adopted a cooperative federalistic nature where all this central and state government has to function with cooperation between them. And when powers are divided between central and state governments, then there might be situations where there will be disputes arising in sharing of powers. So in such situation, there must be a third party to solve the disputes between this federal nature or this kind of federal distribution. When there is some problem between central and state governments in terms of sharing of powers or other means, then if a third party or if a third institution is there, then it can monitor and it can try to help them to resolve those disputes. So federal governance will be effectively implemented if judiciary stands as a third and most independent organ of government. And independent and impartial judiciary is essential requisite for ensuring human rights and protecting democracy. So if two people are there to monitor the entire country, they may try to they may try to dominate the citizens who are actually the people who transfer the power to those things. In such situations, to safeguard the interest of people, independent and impartial judiciary is required, so that whenever they try to overpower the constitution, or if they try to function more than they required, then the judiciary will try to stop such things impartially and independently. And remember here, judiciary is kept independent from these two wings. If judiciary is kept again under the legislative or executive, then there is no third, the judiciary cannot function independently. If it doesn't function independently, how do you think it will resolve the disputes between legislature and central and state government issues? Or how do you think it can stop legislative and executive from trying to suppress when these two organs suppress people's rights? If judiciary is not independent, how do you think it will try to stop such things? Hence, the judiciary here is single, independent and also impartial, so that it indirectly helps the country's democracy to be protected. So under the judiciary, or under the single integrated system of judiciary in India, let us begin with the understanding of the highest judicial institution of our nation, which is Supreme Court. So the Supreme Court, you can see the Supreme Court building in the slide there, which is located in Delhi. And under this Supreme Court, let us begin with what does this Supreme Court has, or what is it composed of. The composition of Supreme Court is one Chief Justice and not more than 30 other judges. So the Supreme Court of India consists of one Chief Justice and not more than 30 other judges until Parliament by law prescribes a larger number of judges. So it is very simple. We'll have one Chief Justice and not more than 30 judges. If the Supreme Court Chief Justice feels that there is a lot of work to be done and the judges are required more in number than 30, then he may take it to the notice of the Parliament, so that if the Parliament by a law it can add more than, then it can increase the limit of judges to more than 30. So generally they should not exceed more than 30 judges, and if required the Parliament should make a law for that. So this is about the composition of Supreme Court of India. Here, what do you mean by Chief Justice and other judges? See, Chief Justice is first among the equals. That means, what is the difference between Chief Justice of India and other judges of Supreme Court? The Chief Justice of India will be also a judge, but he is the senior most judge when compared to other judges of Supreme Court, and he is first among the equals of Supreme Court judges. Hence, he will be appointed as Supreme Court Chief Justice. And let us see that in appointment and other areas. So composition is about one Chief Justice and not more than 30 judges. If required more than 30 judges, Parliament should make a law for it. And let us see what are the qualifications for appointment as a Supreme Court judge. So if anybody has to get appointment as a Supreme Court judge, there must be some qualifications for it. What are that? First one is he must and should be a citizen of India, and he must have served at least 5 years as a judge of a high court or of 2 or more such courts in succession. That means a person must serve as a judge in a state's high court, in one high court, or he may have served as a judge in several other courts, because they get transfers regularly. He might have served in one state's high court, later he might have transferred to another high court, there also he served as a judge. So like this, in one or more high courts, at least for a period of 5 years, a person must serve as a judge in a high court. Otherwise, a person who has served a high court as an advocate for at least 10 years, then he is also, in one or more high courts, if a person serves as an advocate for 10 years, then he is also eligible to become a Supreme Court judge. Otherwise, in the opinion of the President, he must be a distinguished jurist. So, what do you mean by opinion of the President? That means in the idea of the President, or in the thought of the President, a person must be a distinguished jurist. What do you mean by distinguished jurist? Distinguished, anyhow, he's a very well known and very eminent person. What is jurist here? See, distinguished jurist means, say, a judge need not generally how a judge will become, like they'll study law and other things, they'll enter into court, and slowly they become seniors, and later they'll enter into Supreme Court and all. But there are some institutions in the country where certain people who are experts in law will be teaching the students. Like there will be some great universities and other places where there will be professors who are well known in the law. They are experts in the law, and they can even write books and many such things. They might have done their PhDs, postdoc in law, and they might be they'll be serving as professors and all. And now who knows, the president even feels, if he feels, or in his opinion, if he feels that such person should be in Supreme Court, then he may definitely appoint him as a Supreme Court judge. He may, in his opinion, he can just appoint him as a Supreme Court judge. Supreme Court judge, anybody can become Supreme Court judge only if he is a citizen of India. He might have served as 5 years in one or more high courts as a judge. If he is judge for 5 years in one or more high courts, he can become a Supreme Court judge. Otherwise, if he is an advocate, that means like lawyer, for 10 years in one or more high courts, then he is eligible to become a Supreme Court judge. Otherwise, in the opinion of the president, if he is a very famous and if he is a very renowned law professional, or is a professor in some universities and all, then he can also be appointed as a Supreme Court judge. So let us study now the appointment of judges of Supreme Court. So how these judges are appointed. We have just seen the qualifications of a judge, and now we are going to study about how these judges are appointed. So every judge of Supreme Court is appointed by the President of India in consultation with the judges of Supreme Court and High Courts. So besides the Council of Ministers. So the person who appoints the judges of Supreme Court as well as High Courts, even the judges of High Courts, are appointed by the President of India. In appointing such judges to Supreme Court and High Courts, the President is not supposed to have any direction from Council of Ministers. So the executive or the legislative has no role in the appointment of these judges. So we have studied that judiciary is completely an independent organ, right? So here their appointment is done by President without any involvement of the Council of Ministers or the Union Cabinet, or you can take any organ from the governments. Nobody can involve in this. Then who will decide this? Then who will suggest the name of a judge to President? So here, if you take Supreme Court judge, as we are discussing Supreme Court, in appointment of a Supreme Court judge, the Chief Justice of India, he will speak with another 4 important judges in his court, and they are together referred as collegium. That means the Supreme Court Chief Justice, he will consult the other senior most judges in the Supreme Court, and he will select a person as a judge, and he will give the list to they will select the list of persons, and they'll give the list to the President, and the President will in turn appoint them. And in case of the appointment of judge other than Chief Justice, the Chief Justice of India shall be consulted. That means except in the appointment of Chief Justice. So in the appointment of other judges, the Chief Justice of India is consulted by President. Suppose if new judge is to be appointed for Supreme Court, then the President will consult the Chief Justice of India also. Whereas in the appointment of Chief Justice of India itself, there will be different way of appointment. Like how the Chief Justice will be appointed then? The Chief Justice is generally the senior most judge of the Supreme Court. So among the all judges of the Supreme Court, if somebody is having highest seniority, then President will select him as the Chief Justice of India. And after selecting him as Chief Justice of India, if there are other judges to be appointed by President, then at such situations, President will consult the Chief Justice of India. And when the Chief Justice is unable to perform the duties of his office by any reason, then the President may appoint another judge of Supreme Court as an acting Chief Justice. So like you take right now, we have Arvind Bobde as a new Chief Justice of India. He was appointed by President because if you look at the slide here, under the the below slide, there's a picture of several judges there. So if you look at the top, no, he was the former Chief Justice of India, Tarun Gogoi. As per experience, next to him was, Arvind Babde. So after Tarun Gogoi retired from his office, as per seniority list, Arvind Babde is selected as Chief Justice by President. And if any member from High Courts is to be taken as Supreme Court judge, then what President will do? President will take consultation of the Chief Justice Arvind Babde. Here, what do you mean by consultation of President? So nothing but he will just discuss with the collegium of the Supreme Court, where Chief Justice and other senior most judges will be part, and by concurrence, that means by an agreement, yes, this person we need to take him as Supreme Court judge. Here consultation means concurrence. What do you mean by concurrence? Just coming for an agreement. So in that manner, President will appoint other judges of Supreme Court by consulting the Chief Justice. If it is appointment of Chief Justice, then he will select the senior most judge among the Supreme Court judges. So this is about the appointment of judges of Supreme. So along with the Supreme Court regular judges, there are certain other kinds of judges which are appointed in Supreme Court, and they are referred as ad hoc judges. So the word ad hoc in Latin means for a specific purpose, meaning, so they are these kind of judges are brought and given the status of Supreme Court judge for a particular case or for a particular purpose. Suppose if a judge, he is very much expertise in dealing all the economic frauds or banking fraud, something. He might have given many, judgments as a High Court judge or Chief Justice, on various economic frauds. Then what will happen? He'll become an expertise in that. So in Supreme Court, while dealing such things, they might want to take the help of such, very efficient judge who is in High Court. Then what they'll do? Only for a particular case or for a particular period, they will take him as a temporarily, they'll take them as a ad hoc judge, because they are specifically appointed for a particular issue, and the Chief Justice will appoint such ad hoc judges. So generally, how do the Chief Justice will appoint such ad hoc judges? The Chief Justice of India or Supreme Court, he will appoint the ad hoc judges with the consent of the President. That means with the permission from the President, and after consulting the Chief Justice of the High Court concerned. Suppose a particular judge, for example, consider that some ex-judge of a particular High Court is to be taken as ad hoc judge. Then what Supreme Court Chief Justice will do? He will meet the President and he will take the permission from President that he is going to appoint some ex from particular state High Court as a Supreme Court judge. Then in appointing such person as ad hoc judge, the Supreme Court Chief Justice will take the permission of President, and also he will inform this matter to the High Court Chief Justice from which this ad hoc judge has been taken. So the Chief Justice of India will take the consent of President and he will consult the Chief Justice of High Court, because generally these ad hoc judges are generally taken from High Courts. When taking such persons as ad hoc judges, Chief Justice will take permission from President, and later Chief Justice will also consult the High Court Chief Justice from where these judges are taken, and later they will appoint him as a ad hoc judge for a particular case or for a particular time period. Now based on the specific issue which is going on in the court, Supreme Court, they will take accordingly such an expert judge there as a Supreme Court judge. During their term as a ad hoc judge, these judges will enjoy all the statuses of a Supreme Court judge. The Chief Justice may at any time, with previous consent of the President, can request the attendance of retired judges of Supreme Court or High Courts to act as a judge of Supreme Court. So one situation we have already seen. in what I mean, like ad hoc judges can be taken from High Court by consulting the High Court Chief Justice and by the permission of President. In another case, the Chief Justice may ask some retired judges of Supreme Court as well as High Court to come and act as a Supreme Court judge, because it depends on the case and it depends on the situations needed. They may feel that this retired retired judge of High Court or Supreme Court is very helpful in dealing a particular case. Then they may ask him to come and act as an ad hoc judge and help in the resolving many issues. So ad hoc judges are appointed by Supreme Court Chief Justice, so on the permission from President and consultations from the High Courts from which they belong. So now let us discuss about the term of office of such Supreme Court judge. We have seen qualifications of Supreme Court judge. Later we have turned to his appointments. Then we are discussing about the term of office. A judge of Supreme Court shall hold office until he attains the age of 65 years. So till any person attains the age of 65 years, they can continue as Supreme Court judges, and the office of a Supreme Court judge will fall vacant when they submit the resignation to President. So a judge may resign from his office and he is supposed to submit the resignation to the President of the country, because it is the President who appoints them. So a resignation letter should be even submitted to the President. And a judge of Supreme Court cannot be removed from his office except by an order of President on the ground of proved misbehavior or incapacity. So in one situation the judge may retire and the office will fall vacant. So once there is 65 years, then they'll retire and his position will fall vacant. In other situations, the judge itself may resign and he submits his resignation to President, then his office will fall vacant. There is another situation where a judge is removed from his office. And who can remove a Supreme Court judge? A president can only remove Supreme Court by an order. And it is not such an easy order. Let me explain this. A Supreme Court judge can be only removed when there is proved misbehavior or incapacity. Proved misbehavior in the sense, if the Supreme Court judge violated Constitution and has done some illegal thing or something which is not acceptable to Constitution, then he comes under the ground of proved misbehavior, and it should be proved. Just not allegations will not work. It should be proved. And incapacity, that means if any judge who has if any Supreme Court judge if he is incapable of dealing certain things in the office, then he will be removed by the President. And in this removal of Supreme Court judges, the President cannot take decisions on his own. So what happens? The removal of Supreme Court judge is a very complicated process where the both houses of Parliament should pass this resolution of removing a judge with 2/3 majority. So not less than 2/3 majority members of Parliament should pass a resolution for the removal of any Supreme Court judge. Only then the President can issue orders for the removal of Supreme Court judge. And this process of removal of Supreme Court judge by 2/3 majority of both houses of Parliament is known as impeachment. And this impeachment was once carried in 1993, on a judge of Supreme Court by name Justice V. Ramaswamy. But there was no majority, and both houses of Parliament could not pass the resolution of this removal with 2/3, and hence that resolution was cancelled, and later it was not passed actually, so he was not removed. So this was the first ever impeachment motion against a Supreme Court judge, happened in 1993 with reference to India. And the seat of Supreme Court. Where does this Supreme Court will function? From where it executes its function? the Supreme Court shall sit in Delhi or in any other place as the Chief Justice may decide with the approval of President. See, as of now, the Supreme Court functions from Delhi. But in case if the Chief Justice with the prior permission from President, he can also function from anywhere in the country as and time and necessary. Suppose if there is a situation where the judges themselves have to go and start delivering these speeches or delivering the judgments, then the Chief Justice and other judges they'll decide, they'll inform the President, take his permission, and they can function from any other place in the country. So it depends on the situations. During various situations, if the case cannot be dealt in Delhi, it may be definitely taken in anywhere with the prior permission from President and with the initiation from Supreme Court Chief Justice and other judges. So this is about the term of office as well as the seat of Supreme Court.